So Daniel Dubois absolutely steamrolls Anthony Joshua in the fifth round to retain his IBF heavyweight title. I just want to kick this video off by giving Daniel Dubois massive credit and massive props personally, because not that he really cares. I'm sure he doesn't give a crap about some guy on the internet's opinion, but I've picked against him 3 times in a row. And for this fight, I thought that he was going to lose in very decisive fashion. And I actually predicted that AJ would knock him out in the fifth round. But no, he flipped the script and he would not be denied. And he wanted to hold on to that title. And he knocked AJ out in the fifth round. And what a knockout it was. I think that's probably one of the most dramatic finishes to a fight I've seen watching it live, because it really was a spectacle. It was so dramatic. My vocal cords are fried from screaming at the TV, and my thoughts are scattered, so bear with me. But yeah, this was a great fight, definitely a must watch. Just the finish alone was just stunning. The sequence of events that led up to it was just, that's why you tune into heavyweight boxing. For those of you who don't know, just to give a bit of context, I picked Anthony Joshua to win. I thought he'd knock Dubois out in the fifth round. I saw in my mind's eye, I envisaged the fight, Joshua coming out, having a rough opening round. I did think that Dubois would have success early on in that opener, but I thought Joshua would come through. I thought that he'd be able to adjust, and over the course of round 2, 3, 4, he'd probably box in a safety first manner, looking to win boring, but still getting off meaningful shots that accumulate the damage on Dubois. And I thought that Dubois, with his eagerness, with his aggression, probably around the fifth, would sense some urgency and he'd go in to close the show, and that would lead to him being timed by AJ, who's a very good counter-puncher. And I saw Dubois being flat out, but that didn't happen, that didn't materialise. Although the complexion of the fight as it opened did kind of follow what I envisaged, where Dubois was dangerous early and he was pressing the action. Anthony Joshua was on the back foot, not conceding ground at a high rate, but nevertheless not pressing the action, but trying to get a feel for the fight. But one thing that concerned me was not that Dubois landed his jab so early, because I anticipated that, as I think many people did. It was the volume of jabs that he landed. He was landing, I think within the first 10 seconds, he maybe landed 3 jabs. I'm going off of memory, but it seemed like a lot. And he just couldn't miss. And AJ, technically, it just seemed like he wasn't awake yet. He had a good sweat on. He clearly warmed up, but I think the timing and the speed of Dubois really caught him off guard. I really do, and that's a theme that that's sticking with me after watching this fight. Is I don't think Anthony Joshua underestimated Daniel Dubois in the lead up to this fight, but I think he definitely underestimated him during the fight, as the fight was unfolding, because there were numerous knockdowns throughout the fight, one being in the closing seconds of the first round, I believe, which was really just a nightmare for Anthony Joshua. Just the worst possible start he could have, getting beaten up with the jab and then getting knocked down quite heavily at the closing seconds of the first round, I believe, like the last 10 seconds, which seemed to be through negligence. And I know obviously Daniel Dubois threw the punch and it landed, so credit to him, but with the knockdowns that Anthony Joshua suffered, it just seemed like he had underestimated how far away he was, or he overestimated how far away he was, thinking that Dubois couldn't reach him, when in reality Dubois could reach him, and reach him with some good leverage too. And I think he also underestimated Dubois' the speed at which he can turn his punches over in an exchange, because Anthony Joshua, he seemed to be content using his mobility around the ring, which he's not the best mover, but he can do it. But Dubois did an amazing job of staying in front of him, pressuring him, never being out of position really. And yeah, just Joshua trying to do this kind of slick Rick box and move stuff, which, hey, that's great, but when you're doing it too close and you got your hands down, you're just asking for trouble. A lot of Joshua's defense was very single layered, so he was seemingly content to just move backwards, but he wouldn't change the position of his head. He wouldn't hide behind a shoulder. He wouldn't have a glove up. He wouldn't get an angle on the punch. just content to back and all slightly to the side. And Dubois is able to cover that distance. Dubois is a mechanical fighter, and he's not the quickest, but in terms of foot speed, he's actually pretty decent for a guy of his dimensions and his bulk, his size. He's got a decent spring in his step, and that just really caught Joshua off guard. And as I say, my scatterbrained thoughts, but yeah, just the knockdowns that Joshua suffered. I don't want to say that they could have easily been avoided, but I feel like Joshua really didn't help himself. There was just like a negligence, a lack of defensive responsibility, a reliance on just pulling away from the punches with his chin up in the air. And it was just, really puzzling stuff. And the complexion of the fight, because Joshua made it out of the first round, which was torrid. In my mind, I'm watching it with my friends and I'm saying to them, Joshua needs to make it out of the second. And he was able to do that. And it seemed like Joshua, when he got knocked down, he was clearly hurt, but he wasn't. It seemed like he still had his wits about him because his eyes weren't in separate orbit. They weren't glassy. It seemed like he was still lucid. But Joshua, not being known for having great powers of recovery and questionable stamina, the shape just was leaving him. And the only thing that he really had success with the only punch he had success with was the jab. But it just wasn't landing at the same rate as Dubois. Even the right hand, credit to Dubois, he learnt from that Hrgovic fight. He did a great job of just hiding behind that left shoulder, just tucking his chin. And Joshua couldn't land it. He couldn't land that right hand. And it was just the smallest of adjustments made by Dubois really paid off in a major way, because I don't think he could have taken those Joshua right hands as we saw in the fifth round when the fight ended, because Joshua, he showed that he could hurt Dubois. Visibly buckled Dubois' legs, and obviously I'm skipping forward a bit, but got greedy with the right hand. And the finishing moments of the fight is the real sickener, because that's when Joshua had a flash of hope, a flash of success, which is what he needed. He needed to roll the dice. The complexion of the fight, especially after the first couple of rounds, was that Joshua's he's in between a rock and a hard place, because if he just backs up and plays safety first, then he's going to allow Daniel Dubois to gather all that forward momentum and steamroll him. And it seemed like Daniel Dubois could hurt him at will. And Joshua, not the best survivor, not great at covering up, not great at slipping and sliding and just being able to mitigate punches and roll with them, not being able to do that. He's not good at that. But then at the same time, if he stands his ground and throws a punch and rolls a dice, he's just going to open himself up to being countered, because it shows that even if he is able to evade the first returning shot from Dubois, there's this defensive responsibility, and he's underestimating how quickly Dubois can turn over another punch. And he was just all over the shop. I think, was Joshua down 4 times or 3 times before the knockout? I think after the first 4 rounds, Joshua was down on the scorecards by like 7 points. It was like 40-33 to Dubois. And yeah, Dubois just, as I say, man, credit to him. He really just didn't put a foot wrong. There were obviously some defensive lapses there where he was being timed by that jab of Joshua, but he was given so much more than he was getting. And that's really something I want to touch on, is I picked Anthony Joshua to beat Daniel Dubois. And I know it. Same thing after every big fight. There are going to be Anthony Joshua fans. There are going to be Daniel Dubois detractors who want to make up excuses. As far as I can see, that was a great version of Anthony Joshua. The way he was moving, the steely determination in his eyes on the way to the ring. I actually thought he looked cool, calm and collected, focused, ice cold. I actually thought Dubois looked a bit nervous and a bit, just had some anxious energy about him. So I think that this was a really good version of Anthony Joshua. I just think that Daniel Dubois was that much better. And he was better than myself and many other people anticipated. But better than Anthony Joshua anticipated in the ring. So yeah, I honestly, Daniel Dubois, he gets 100% of the credit from me. I can't fault him. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did exactly what he set out to do. But that 5th round, that really was... I know I sound like I'm being dramatic, but it was just the fact that Joshua had such a torrid time in those first rounds, hanging on for dear life. Literally, had to run the clock down as much as he could, and I think he was very fortunate that Daniel Dubois, his eagerness to engage, sometimes he was pushing Joshua down, sometimes he was palming Joshua's face with his glove, sometimes he was going in with his head. That actually worked against Dubois because it gave Joshua more time to recover when the referees come in and giving him a warning. And so I've got, like, based on what I saw, I think Anthony Joshua had every opportunity, every possible chance to get back into the fight, but he just couldn't do it. He just wasn't robust enough. He just wasn't defensively aware enough. And Dubois was too sharp. It's that simple. But after those rounds, going into the fifth, you see Joshua, he lands this right hand, visibly buckles Dubois' legs. Dubois is now reeling. He lands another right hand and another right hand. And Dubois is now up against the ropes. And Joshua just can't miss. And he's still taking some cuffing punches in return. But now this is his moment. He's got to roll the dice. And he goes for a lead right uppercut and just gets caught flush on the jaw. Down he goes. Arms and legs betray him, and he's eating canvas. And now it's easy for me from my bedroom behind my microphone to say what a rookie mistake, because who the hell am I? I'm not the one at Wembley fighting in front of 96,000 fans for the heavyweight title. But at grassroots level, which is the extent of my boxing experience as a boxer and as a coach, one caution I was always taught, and something I've always passed on, is the riskiest punch to lead with is the right uppercut. And that's for two reasons. It's because depending on your posture, it's going to leave you open before you've thrown the punch, depending on what you set up with. Anthony Joshua didn't set up with anything. He's come forward with a low left hand, which in itself presents a window for the right hand, and he's cocked this right uppercut and gone for it. But then by its very nature, the uppercut, uppercuts follow a certain trajectory where you actually finish the punch damn near on the center line. And that's probably the most vulnerable position you could be in. If you just look at the trajectory of the punch, where it starts and where it finishes, where is your head when that punch has reached its destination? You're on the center line. And as I say, that combined with the fact that Joshua had very poor hand placement, he just got caught with a massive right hand, and down he went. And yeah, as I say, like, who am I at the end of the day? But at grassroots rookie level, that's something that you get taught not to do. And I don't remember seeing Joshua lead with right uppercuts, and the right uppercut is a good punch for him, but I don't remember him walking into distance and looking to throw it. Usually it's followed up, or it follows a left hook, or it follows at least a jab. So I think Joshua, talk about rolling the dice, because that was something he was saying to Ben Davison in the corner after, 3-4 rounds, like, okay, you got to roll the dice. You got to hit Dubois with something. So I think Anthony Joshua is going to be feeling sick, sick right down to the core, because he'll look back and he thought, if I just took one, if I just staggered the setup, if I just threw a jab, maybe I could have got through. But it's heavyweight boxing, man. It's crazy. It's wild. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else I want to talk about. That finish, though, it's just, it's so cruel how the moment of hope when Joshua thought like he was getting a foothold in the fight just gets snatched away from him. One thing I do want to say is, like, a lot of criticism towards Joshua. I think technically he wasn't great defensively, although I do think it was a good version of him, sharp and fresh. His heart has always been questioned for whatever reason. I don't think you can question his heart now. Against Ruiz, he got up several times and it got stopped by the referee. And people said, he didn't look like he wanted to continue, but he didn't outright quit. I think this performance really puts it to bed. Anthony Joshua has heart. To get knocked down the way he did so many times by a massive puncher and to get up and sometimes be smiling and be ready to go again and try and get his own success back. You can't deny this guy has heart. Even when he was completely separated from his senses, face first on the canvas, he was trying to get up. So at a bare minimum, you have to give Anthony Joshua credit for his heart. That is undeniable. His fighting spirit. But nevertheless, Daniel Dubois, he did the business. Proved me and many others wrong in a big way. And power to him, man. Power to Daniel Dubois, because he really showed up tonight. He really did, and yeah, shocked a lot of people. So yeah, I can't really think of anything else. These are all just the things I was thinking of during the fight. I think I've touched on everything, so I'm going to leave this one here. Probably rewatch this fight as soon as it's available, and we can look at some of the nitty gritty. But for now, those are my immediate thoughts. Leave yours in the comment section below. What did you make of this one? Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.